But my main consumption of romance is historical romance. You know, those cheesy romance novels people talk about. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kasey LeAlma. On this channel, I talk about anything writing related since I am writing my current novel and hoping to publish next year. I also talk about two of my favorite hobbies, planning and purses. Any of those three things interest you, please don't hesitate to stick around, subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you here in this community. And if you hit the bell icon, you'll be notified when my videos go live. So today we are going to talk about my 5 favorite romance tropes. And I'm going to start the video off saying that I do read a variety of romance, but my main consumption of romance is historical romance. You know, those cheesy romance novels people talk about? That is my favorite type of romance. I'm not a big fan on contemporary romance books, especially if the ending is not guaranteed to come out happy, or if they don't end up together. I want them to end in love and marriage and just have a happy life. That is what I want to read. Most historical romances, I don't think I've ever read one that doesn't end with them being married and in love together. So usually that's the romance that I read. I don't necessarily read sci-fi or fantasy for the romance. If the book has a romance subplot, totally fine. I really like that, but reading fantasy and sci-fi is more of like the adventure that I'm looking for, and overcoming great evils or figuring something out. It's not solely based on the fact that it is strictly a romance fantasy. I just wanted to say that up front to let you know that 5 romancing tropes. Did I say that we're talking about tropes today? I don't remember, but we're talking about my 5 favorite romance tropes. To get started with the list, number 5 is fairy tale retellings or Cinderella story structure books. I really love Disney princesses. Honestly, if I pick up a book and the back says something about princesses, I'm down for it. Or queens, I'm down for it. I want to read lots of stuff about queens and princesses and just their world. I really enjoy fairy tale retellings, and an example of this, I recently got done reading the first 3 books in the Stolen Kingdom series by Bethany Azadada. Her 4th book is coming out in March, and I've already pre-ordered it. So I'm super excited, and I hope that the pre-order works this time. The last time I pre-ordered something, it never went through, and I had to buy it again after it went out. After it came out, it was like a month later that I was like, didn't I pre-order this book that came out? And come to find out, it never downloaded into my library, and I had to go back and figure out if I had actually paid for it or not, because I thought I did. I got an email saying I did, but then come to find out I didn't pay for it, and so I had to go and buy it again and read it. So that was a little frustrating, and one of the reasons why I haven't pre-ordered any books for a really long time. The 4th trope that I really like are fake engagements. This trope I like to read in contemporary romances, which I don't read that often, but if I pick up a contemporary romance, it usually has a fake engagement or a fake marriage as like the main plot line. But I do read this in historical romance quite a lot. One big example of this is the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. Recently was on Netflix, and I binge watched it in 2 days. Loved it. Another interesting one that will date me here is Holiday in Handcuffs with Melissa Joan Hart. I think it came out in early 2000s. I'm not really sure, but I really enjoyed that movie. I really enjoy Melissa Joan Hart because I grew up watching her. So that is my number 4 pick. So I just wanted to take a moment and ask you guys what your favorite romance tropes are. Put those down in the comments. I can't wait to read them and see if maybe I missed one of mine and I need to alter this list. Now let's get back to my favorite tropes. Number 3 trope is mistaken identity / disguise of some kind, or possibly a lost heron. Like they were lost as a young kid and then they trickle and find their way back to their family, and come to find out they're the Duke and they didn't know that. So those 3 kind of go together. I really enjoy these tropes. I definitely have these out of order. I wrote down the numbers, but my number 1 is definitely not the one that I pick most often. I pick probably mistaken identity or disguise more than I would pick my number 1, but that's a side point. So mistaken identity or disguise, I know on the one disguise, a book that I read recently was about a maid, a working woman in historical romance, and she had a hard past, and she ended up dressing as a gentlewoman and going to parties so that she could map out where all the valuables were. I have 2 examples of mistaken identity or disguise. One is a Lost Heron series, and I will pop it on the screen for you. And then I have another example on my Nook. It is by Alicia Cornwell. I cannot talk today. The other book is by Alicia Cornwell, and it's How to Deceive a Duke. And in this book, the woman's family is almost destitute, and a miracle happens where the grandma of the Duke is finding him a wife, and she chooses the prettier of the 2 girls, but the pretty girl is very unappreciated that she was selected to marry the Duke, and runs off with a soldier. And the oldest and the mother are trying to figure out what to do, and the oldest decides to step in for her sister because the Duke's never seen either one of them, and she hides herself on the wedding day so that no one can really see who is under the veil, and gets married to the Duke and saves her family. And then that, of course, ensures lots of different problems and reactions from both the Duke and the Duchess now. And so that was a really fun book to read, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a historical romance with mistaken identity or disguise. The second trope is marriage of convenience. Most historical romances have this trope in it. Most of the ones I read, the last example, the How to Deceive a Duke, is a marriage of convenience. And I really, of course, Bridgerton is sort of like that. They were discovered and had to get married, even though they did like each other. But you know, if you haven't seen the series, I'll try not to spoil it for you. It is definitely a good series to watch on Netflix if you're looking for something to binge on a weekend. I highly recommend that. But I really like Marriage of Convenience if the 2 they don't get along to start with, and the reason that they're together is like to argue with each other, and then they get caught, and so then they're just like more torn that they're like, no, I'm not marrying him, I'm not marrying her type of thing, and they get married anyway because of the fact that the girl is ruined and the guy does the right thing. I really enjoy those types of marriage or convenience. And number one is second chance romances. I wouldn't say most of them, but some second chance romances, you know, have like the girl or the guy returning to their hometown, and that was like such a big deal to go off on their own, and then they didn't make it and they had to come home. But then when they come home, they are able to rekindle a past romance. So I do enjoy those. I see a lot of those in contemporary. As I said earlier, I don't tend to read a lot of contemporary romances. I would pick up Mistaken Identity or Disguise or Lost Here, Trope over second chances. But an example of a second chance romance, and this is a historical romance reference, but it was on my shelf, which is mostly historical romance or fantasy. But it is Victoria Alexander, Her Highness My Wife. So it also has princess involved in it. So I really enjoyed this. Of course, this is part of a bigger series for Victoria Alexander, and that is another thing that I really enjoy, is having a series when the author goes in depth into the background of the family. I really enjoy getting to know each and every character in the family. If you are wanting to read a historical romance in a second chance, this book is a good recommendation for you. So those are my 5 favorite tropes that I will pick up in the romance genre. I read a lot of historical romance because I want that happy ending. That will be it for me today. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you here in this community. Happy Friday, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on my next video. Bye!